Italian boys with muscles.
Oh, well, you'll love JP Morosi then rejoining the program on a Tuesday, and we're ticking through the league, JP, division by division. You're about to tackle for us the very interesting National League Central.
One of the more intriguing divisions in the major leagues. And, of course, the Cardinals were the division champions in 2022, winning that division by 7 games over the Milwaukee Brewers. The Cubs coming in third, the Reds and Pirates tied for 4th place. I would say this on the Cardinals. 2 things stand out to me. It's not just the moves they've made this offseason, but the moves they could make in the season, whether it's a trade or potentially promoting from the minor leagues. I'd mentioned a couple names that aren't on this list right now. Jordan Walker, the outstanding top 10 prospect in the game, probably going to be an outfielder in St. Louis, and then Mason Wynn over at shortstop. But here was what they did. They, of course, brought back Adam Wainwright. Yadier Molina retires, as does Pujols, and they signed their division rival, Wilson Contreras. Really interesting story there. Now, I think they'll rely a bit more on Dakota Hudson. We see Quintana moving on in the rotation. But I think for me, one of the most intriguing storylines this spring is going to be to see this long-time, career-long Cub putting on the red and white in Jupiter, Florida, reporting there to the National League Central rival, St. Louis Cardinals. That's going to be a lot of fun. Day one, reported day, which, of course, is just 2 weeks away. Now, you talk about the Milwaukee Brewers in 2nd place. They never really got themselves going last year following the Josh Hader move. And just take a look at all the changes they made with Matt Arnold now at the controls for the first offseason. They probably were as active in terms of sheer volume of player movement than any other team in baseball. Colton Wong, of course, gets traded to Seattle. They bring in Jesse Winker, who needed that change of scenery. Be really curious to see how he does there. For me, talk about the Contreras family. William Contreras coming over, all-star level player, young one, of course, with the Atlanta Braves a year ago. He is someone that I think is a really, really intriguing fit there in Milwaukee. It was a very good move. Esteury Ruiz was the prospect they gave up to get him. I think that was a very savvy move in that 3-way deal with Sean Murphy, where Murphy, of course, wound up in Atlanta. I really like that move by the Brewers. Matt Arnold tremendously busy first off season there in control of the Brewers. Now, the third place team, the one that I think has a chance to make the biggest jump in this division, the Chicago Cubs. Guys, I love watching the Cubs and how active they were with Cody Bellinger coming in, Trey Mancini as well, Dansby Swanson, a lot of moves there by the Cubs. As I send it back to you guys for some thoughts there on the first 3 teams we've talked about. But I think having Smiley come back in as a starting pitcher, they've got Jameson Taillon as well. This is a team that, as Tom Ricketts has said, gentlemen, they believe the Cubs they can compete for a National League Central Championship here in 2023.
Yeah, I do too. And here's part of that logic. We talk about, Contreras defecting and going to St. Louis. It's not like they brought in a stiff to replace him. Tucker Barnhart's a 2-time Gold Glover who's in Chicago now. And if you talk about the last 2 teams on your list, the Brewers and the Cubs, we put up those boards, right? Harold's full screens, where there's additions on the left and a subtractions on the right.
We got that full screen built.
We got that full screen built for the Cubs once again. For the Cubs, I like the left-hand side of the screen a lot more than the right-hand side of the screen. No offense. For the Brewers, it's the opposite. I actually like it the other way around. I like the subtractions list better than I like the additions list, which is not where you want to be. And again, no offense to anybody on the other side of that ledger. So for those reasons, very simplified, I like the Cubs to be much improved this year. What about you, Ron?
Yeah, I feel the same way. When you see names like Renfroe and Wong not there anymore in Milwaukee playing a big role, I think, Milwaukee always maximizes with what they have better, I think, than just about any team in baseball. And I think they're going to be there. I mean, they did not have a good year, and they're 10 games over 500.
Yeah,
it says a lot about them.
That's a good point. Let's go to the rest of the division here, JP, because I think we'd all agree that the winning formula is somewhere in that Cubs-Cardinals-Brewers conversation. But could the Pirates and or Reds surprise us this year?
Perhaps a bit. I do think the Pirates are a team that they are getting better incrementally. Let's start with Pittsburgh. Of course, they bring back Andrew McCutchen, and that I think is a very important symbolic move by the Pirates, but also one that shows that they want to bring in some veteran leadership to help mentor the next generation. Andrew was saying at his press conference he sees some similarities to where the current Pirates roster is setting up with O'Neal Cruz, Brian Hayes. They still have Brian Reynolds, of course. He has not yet been subtracted on the Pirates side of things despite the trade request. And so Andrew, in a full circle moment, wants to come back and help mentor this next generation. We know just how highly we all think of Andrew both on and off the field. He's going to make a huge impact there now that he's back in the Steel City. And now with the Cincinnati Reds, a relatively quiet offseason for them. I think the story with Cincinnati will be the continued growth of their young players. They did bring in Will Myers, of course, Kevin Newman, the former Pirate. But for me, I'm most curious to see how Hunter Green looks with just continued maturation for him. We know what a leader he is in the sport. I think this is now the year for him to really flourish. And then on the offensive side, a couple names that are still there. Votto and Stevenson. I think Votto potentially as the DH first base hybrid. We'll see how many games David Bell wants to give him to start in the field. Obviously, he's been, for me, a Hall of Fame player over the course of his career, so we always love to see what Joe's got planned. And certainly, I loved hearing last week Votto speaking about the influence that Scott Rowland, the newly elected Hall of Famer, had on Joey's career there in Cincinnati.
Yeah, kind of a snapshot glance at the National League Central. Let's get you to some sad news, to a baseball passing for a very influential figure.
Yes, Ralph Avila, a beloved figure in the game, Matt. Someone who joined the Dodgers back in 1970 as a part-time scout. Of course, the father of Al Avila, the grandfather of our colleague Alex Avila here at the network. So we send our prayers and condolences to the Avila family. Here's what Alex had to say yesterday. You were a revolutionary, leader, scout, pioneer, innovator, Hall of Famer, teacher, coach, mentor. Disciplined and tough, but always fair. A man of God, incredibly generous, loving, caring, husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, forever Abuelo Dodger. I love you. Rest in peace. Those words from Alex Avila about his legendary grandfather, Ralph Avila. And of course, a very close friend, Ralph always was, of the great Tommy Lasorda. Very, very close friends. They worked together with the Dodgers for so many years. Tommy, as one story in the LA Times recounted, Tommy referred to Ralph as an institution. And we talk so much, guys, about the game today, the international nature of the game. And we love whether it's the World Baseball Classic or the prospects who come up from Latin America. This doesn't happen without Ralph Avila. He was the pioneer. We talk so much about the Dodgers Dominican Academy at Campo Las Palmas in the Dominican Republic. Ramon Martinez, Pedro Martinez, Raul Mondesi, Jose Vizcaíno, all of those names, that was Ralph Avila's work. He was the one who founded that academy. So whenever we talk about all 30 teams now having academies in the Dominican Republic and all the incredible talent that we see come from there every single year, Ralph Avila was there at the start of it. And I think it was a beautiful story that Kevin Baxter wrote about him for ESPN.com back in 2006. And Ralph, of course, was born in Cuba. He left his native Cuba, became a proud American citizen, living in Florida for many, many years. But he said in that story that he was born in Cuba, he's a proud U.S. citizen, but his heart was in the Dominican. And so when you think about what the Avila family has meant to the game overall, a lot of it has to do with the way that Ralph's work in the Dominican Republic for the Dodgers literally changed the course of baseball history.
Yeah, some great perspective there, JP. Good stuff.
Yeah, I didn't only change the course of baseball history, but I mean, how many men have changed an island where you can send kids from poverty and give them a bridge to success? I mean, it's just an amazing story, amazing life.
Yeah, for sure. JP, thank you. Good stuff.